Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever part of the world this webinar finds you in. We've got about a minute and a half before we'll get started talking about the interdependency of SEO and sponsored ads, all about building that flywheel approach to your discoverability on Amazon. So we'll get started here in about a minute and a half. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And as a friendly reminder, about a minute before we get started, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. So there is the ability to ask questions throughout the presentation. So whatever comes to mind, feel free to type it in and ask. If it's a little bit more specific, we may need to follow up with you directly. I find that marketing is a very strategy specific topic to discuss. And so there's a sweet spot between too general and it's hard to answer, and too specific and it's hard to answer. So look for that middle ground, but we will do our best or reply directly to you. So good morning again. We'll get started in about a minute. Hello there, welcome to our webinar about understanding the interdependency of SEO and sponsored ads. This is more specific to Amazon, however, it will cover topics ranging from Google, Walmart, eBay, other marketplaces, even your own direct site. So Katie, if you want to go to the next slide. The presenters, we have Jeremy Rosso, who is our digital marketing manager. He'll be here talking about, again, that cost per click marketing on Amazon. We have Jennifer Johnston, our SEO team lead, the guru of all things discoverability when it comes to your products. And then myself, Darby Megan. I head up our product and data team here at e-tailz. So good morning. These are the friendly faces that you won't be seeing. Next slide. And a little bit about e-tailz before we jump in. We have 10+ years of advertising experience. We've been selling on Marketplace for just about 11 years. We have worked with thousands of brands and partners to manage their channels, to be their online presence, to help propel their business forward on marketplaces. We've been being discovered and working with the Amazon algorithm for a long time. We've also, as part of our marketing background, developed our own proprietary software called Ad Manager. It's a great name. It does exactly what it says. And we've used this for a couple of years in-house, and yet recently in March, we released this externally. So it's the tool we've used to help brands grow for the last 4 or 5 years. It manages millions of keywords for us. It allows us to run custom bid optimizations and algorithmically adjust our bids. It's our search marketer that never sleeps and allows us to hit our goals. It lets us capture our data and look at comps beyond that 90-day window that Amazon locks you for, and lets us optimize on the long tail data or the dates. And then it also automates a lot of the optimization, such as search term and budget. So it mines keywords for us, and it also increases our budgets as they're sustainable and hitting their goals. So it is our search marketer that never sleeps. And the next slide. SEO and search marketing on Amazon. So there's a lot of conversation right now about marketing. Amazon's in the news for growing 40% year over year with their marketing business, reaching billions of dollars in revenue. It's also the talk of the town because it is a major contributor to success for brands, sellers, and vendors on Amazon's platform. As a seller and service provider at e-tailz, we often receive requests to run the advertising before channels are ready. And what that means is that the products aren't discoverable on their own. The titles aren't optimized. The listings are maybe in a C+ status, and that will affect marketing. There's a lot of buzz around marketing. However, it's when you approach marketing and discoverability on Amazon, it's foundational in the sense of sedentary rock, where there's layers and layers and layers of foundations that help you build and propel forward in that flywheel-like approach. So there's a pre-advertising checklist that we recommend. Number one is make sure your listings are great, and the consumers, when they see them, will be excited. They'll see the content, they're discoverable, they're packed with keywords. The second one is that your pricing is consistent around the web. That means Amazon monitors pricing across other websites and will, quote, roll the buy box, unquote, which will kill your discoverability or all that hard work you put into making your products discoverable. It will then just make the experience for the consumer confusing and even deprioritize your listing. The third is conduct keyword research. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but the biggest thing is know what keywords you're targeting and why, what consumers are looking for, how they relate to your brand, how you can reach them with those keywords. And then fourth, determine your budget minimum. This is one of those things where at first budgets are a scary thing before you have the data that shows the sustainability and how the marketing is growing your channel. And so determining that budget minimum and what you're willing to give up in the short run to gain in the long term, that's really imperative. And then the last piece is think about that flywheel, think about that sedentary rock approach. How are you going to build these together and have a holistic strategy and approach your discoverability on Amazon as a unified piece? Sometimes for brands or sellers or vendors, this means reaching across multiple teams. It's one of those things though, you're gonna love it whenever it works great, and when it's not working, you just got to pause, get everybody together, and get your strategy put in place. Katie, next slide. Here are the topics we're going to be covering in the webinar. The SEO overview led by Jen. She'll talk a little bit about what it is, how it works, and opportunities for sellers and brands. A search and marketing overview by Jeremy, where he's going to talk about the marketing platform that Amazon's created, some of the stats and data behind it, and opportunities for brands. And then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes of that interdependency, which is all around how does SEO and search marketing create that recursive loop and that feedback that will allow you to grow and reach consumers. Finally, we'll do that live Q&A as I mentioned. So if you have questions, again, you can drop them into the webinar and we will answer them at the end. And we're excited for that. Also, we will email out a copy of this webinar recording. So if you're taking notes or you're holding an iPhone up to your screen trying to capture every little tidbit of information, no fear, you should see this in your inbox almost as soon as it's done. So with that being said, SEO overview. Jen, will you lead us through it?
Yeah, thanks, Darby. So before we talk about how well SEO and search marketing really complement each other, we want to give you just a little background on each. So Amazon SEO can be a lot of things. So I personally wanted to go into detail for what it means for us and what we do here at e-tailz. When we're talking about it, we're referring to the effort of total optimization of product listings with the ultimate end goal to reach that high organic placement on a search engine results page or SERP. As we all know, Amazon SERP is absolutely littered with sponsored ad placement. So on the graphic on the right, you can see we have a sponsored brand placement across the top, and then the first individual listing placement is also sponsored. So my SEO team's our first opportunity for organic placement is that middle graphic with a large gray blanket on there. So any SEO's job is to try and get our product to display in that first organic placement. When you're attempting to do these listing optimizations to reach that spot, a lot of it is focused on listing copy, and there's definitely some strategy involved there. Yeah, you could throw just about anything under the sun into this listing copy, but if you want to bring more traffic to your listing and see if they convert, you'll have to take into consideration how to optimize that listing copy for both the A9 algorithm and the consumer. The graphic on the lower left is a keyword stuff title that might be well optimized for the algorithm, but if a consumer was to see this on a SERP, they might just keep scrolling due to the difficulty for one to actually read this. So with this listing copy, you really do have to find the happy middle of including enough keywords for the algorithm while also keeping the language that's easily readable for the consumer. Go ahead and go next slide, Katie. Awesome. So some of the items that we can really impact with SEO are listed here, while some are a little bit harder for us to control. In regards to listing copy, the first focuses should always be title and the key features or the bullet points. These are the two fields that are above the fold or what consumers see once they first open up a product detail page. So it's definitely important to put some emphasis on these two fields from the beginning. The next focus that we usually focus on is standard description and then A+ content. We typically prioritize standard description next though, since we know that the Amazon algorithm indexes this field. Our team has personally seen mixed results on whether Amazon actually indexes any listing copy in A+ content, which further confirms why Amazon markets this as a conversion tool more than anything. Other fields that are equally as important that we can see above the fold is the media gallery. This is the pivotal point of listings, because if you don't have quality images, consumers are missing out. They can't touch the product, feel the product. So you need to make sure you have a good media gallery with high resolution studio and lifestyle imagery, and perhaps even videos if that's something that your team has. Another item on here that we have to think about is having a competitive price on your channel. No matter how good any of this content is that we're talking about, if your pricing's too high for your product, traffic is going to divert to competitors. Search terms refers to one of the backend fields under the keywords tab. This is a great keyword overflow area, as I personally like to call it. If you've determined your keywords you want to be placing for, yet you couldn't strategically and organically sprinkle those into your listing content, this field will help. You can just dump all of your remaining keywords into this field and ensure that Amazon indexes these when determining your listing's relevancy. And the last item I personally like to talk about here is just reviews. Reviews are so incredibly important to get consumers to just trust your product, and nothing gets people out of your listing faster than having 0 reviews. So identifying strategies to gain reviews is another priority that can help listing SEO.
For Jen, for brands and sellers who may be new to SEO, is there a good kickoff point that you would recommend that they research and they can read up on SEO? How would you wade into the waters if you were new?
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many resources out there. I'm going to give us our own little plug. We have a lot of blogs that explain a lot of really detailed information about SEO. But for the webinar right now, I think the best advice I can give is kind of twofold. First, the one you can likely control a little bit more, and it's just taking a stab at doing listing copy. Like I said, title, bold, description at the minimum. Just getting something in there is better than nothing. There's nothing worse than spending advertising dollars through paid placement or inbound marketing influencers just to direct them to a listing that doesn't have enough information about your product. And the second item I already kind of touched on, but I would highly recommend getting high quality images. If you can't take them yourself, it's well worth the investment paying a professional or working with an agency like e-tailz to get some high quality imagery for your listings just to get it started on the right foot. Perfect. And awesome. I'll go ahead and pass it off to Jeremy then to work on or explain a little bit about search marketing.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. So when we talk about search marketing on Amazon, we're referring a lot to the CPC, or the cost per click ads, and the paid placements that you will see throughout the Amazon platform. As Darby mentioned earlier, the Amazon advertising business is one of the, if not the fastest growing division within Amazon. And as such, the platform is really becoming a pay to play. Over the portfolio of thousands of brands that we work with, very few of them are generally successful year over year, just relying on their organic sales alone. Really, you've got to have that balance between the organic strategy and the listing focus, as well as a strategy for getting your sales boosted through paid ads. So, the first thing that we always like to recommend with brands is just know what your goal is with your paid ad strategy. Are you out there looking to just boost your sales through direct response? Are you trying to improve your brand awareness? Are you trying to move in on some competitors' market share and expand through that means? Really, whatever your strategy is, it's going to help you influence your media mix, if you will, and which types of campaigns are going to work best for the goals that you've outlined. The 3 different campaign types, we'll go through them real quickly, that are available on Amazon are sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. Sponsored products are your direct response CPC ads. They appear most often in the search results page, and they're designed to look just like an organic listing. What's really great is that not only do they take up usually the top placements on the search results, But because they do look like an organic listing, there's really low friction for the consumer to click into them and get to your listings. A majority of them are keyword-based bidding. So you bid on certain keywords and match them to customer search terms. So you can really dial in on where you want your listings in your advertisement to show up. Sponsored brands are your headline or banner ads that appear usually at the top of the search results, but also in the bottom carousel as well. They feature a custom image, a headline, and up to 3 products. The great use of these is you can direct the shoppers to product listings specifically or to your brand store, so you can really promote a wide range of products with just one consolidated ad strategy. The last opportunity here, and one of the newer ones, is the sponsored display ads. These ads populate both on and off of Amazon. You can target specific ASINs. You can target customers based on where they're at in the shopping funnel, whether it's customers who have viewed your listing and not purchased, customers who are in market in your category, or customers who have purchased and you're trying to retarget them as well. So it's really a great third layer to kind of close that gap and to promote that flywheel, as Darby mentioned, to keep customers coming back to your brand again and again on Amazon.
Can you talk really quickly about, should a brand use all of those? Should a seller use all of those? Is there a time and place? What would be your recommendation for just starting out? And what would be your recommendation for a brand that's sort of midway through the life cycle?
Yeah, great question. And it all kind of ties back to, again, to what is the goal that you're trying to accomplish with search marketing? If it's just to drive sales across your whole product line, there's probably a mix between using all 3 of these ad placements. If it's more brand awareness, sponsored brands and sponsored display are going to get your ads in front of more eyes than your sponsored product ads might. If you are a new to market brand, maybe focusing on just sponsored products, trying to focus on some of those top search terms to get your new product in front of certain customers might be a way to go. So really it's all about knowing what your goals are, knowing how each of the ad placements works, and then finding that right mix of performance and budget that's going to yield the best results.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely worth noting too for high traffic search terms. Amazon often displays 25–30% of total listings as sponsored content. So when you're thinking about running marketing, you're entering in a space that is a little bit pay to play. So nice, thanks.
And then just kind of closing the loop on sponsored marketing or search marketing here. So some of the opportunities we mentioned of when you should be using search marketing. So are you trying to increase sales on specific ASINs, featuring them in sponsored ads, maybe mixing them in with a sponsored brand, featuring those 3 SKUs you might be wanting to focus on, increasing brand awareness, again, just touched on that, totally different strategy than maybe just going for that direct response, just trying to get more eyeballs on your listings, get more clicks. Launching new products on Amazon, can be one of the hardest things to do, is expanding your catalog for new first to market products, and having a strategy around sponsored products is really crucial for the success of those new products. But what we found typically is for a brand that's been on Amazon, when you layer sponsored products and sponsored ads into your strategy, we see up to a 30% increase in sales across the entire channel. So huge benefit for getting your sponsored ad strategy right.
Makes total sense. Now we're going to launch into the interconnected, interwoven approach of SEO and search marketing. Again, friendly reminder, you can ask questions on the right. I guess maybe it's on the left for y'all, but feel free to ask questions. We'll get to that live Q&A at the end. And so next slide, please. Keyword research is paramount. It is the beginning steps for both search marketing and SEO. And what keyword research is, it's identifying those keywords that consumers are searching for so that you're improving your chances of getting in front of those consumers. If you're selling toilet paper in the crazy times of COVID, it will not help your listing to put hair comb into that search marketing or to pack it with SEO. You wanting to reach consumers at the place they'll be found. With that being said, you can see the stats on the right and why it's very compelling to take this seriously. 70% of all shoppers don't scroll past the first page. So placing for SERP, search engine results page, and making sure that you have the right keywords and your listings are optimized and they're converting for those keywords, that's part of the algorithm that you're going to be able to gamify to move up in your rankings. The second, 50% of all ad sales come from the top 3 placements on page 1 of the SERP. There's a Amazon positioning, which we may or may not talk about here in a little bit. That's up to Jeremy, but it's worth noting that you can run placement specific bids to get to those higher places in the search engine results page. That's valuable. However, 50% is coming from those top 3, and you may be able to run a lower conversion rate or higher conversion rate at a higher cost, excuse me. The third, top of page 1 ads have a 31% lower aid cost than the rest of SERP. That's because they may have higher bids, but they're going to have a much higher conversion rate from that first number. It's also worth noting 35% of all shoppers are clicking on that first product, and you'll note Amazon has it as a sponsored placement. As well, 81, oh, excuse me, that's the wrong stat. So with that being said, how can SEO help search, Jen?
Yeah, it's a common question. So obviously keyword research is one of those long, intensive processes that often gets neglected. But once you've done it and you have those keywords, SEO is able to incorporate these focus keywords into target areas of the listing copy that will help build organic relevancy. And once that is done, it can also improve existing ad campaigns using those same keywords to improve their performance and then resulting in just an overall improved placement.
Great. And Jeremy, how can search help that SEO placement?
Yeah, kind of to the inverse of what Jen just said. So the one thing that Amazon does really great on their platform is that we do get a lot of data about keywords that are converting, and then also search terms that customers are typing in and converting on your products as well. So using the advertising reports that are available, using a software such as Ad Manager, we can pull top converting keywords and new search terms and make sure that those are prominently placed throughout the listing copy, both in the title as well as in the bullets, which will in turn should impact organic placement positively.
That's right. And it's worth mentioning that that happens via automated targeting that Amazon provides, as well as broad and phrase match types, which allow Amazon will report to you the actual search term that the customer used, and we can pull those in. And then at that point, as you said, pull that into your SEO listing or into your listing and update your SEO. Great. Next slide.
Perfect.
Jen,
So
do you
I
want to
can
tell
go
us a
ahead.
little bit about reviews?
Yeah, definitely. So reviews is one of the items I mentioned in SEO that we have some control, but honestly, we're really dependent on the consumer, and the process of just gaining reviews is really slow, and the numbers are quite frustrating if you're not familiar. As you can see, only 2% of sales generate reviews organically, but yet from an internal study that we did, we found that almost 3/4 of consumers claim they won't purchase a product that doesn't have a review. So that kind of puts us in a pickle in any seller on Amazon. So some of the things that our SEO team does just by trying to generate reviews, we can enroll in Amazon programs like the early reviewer program. That's a great campaign for new products to the market. Some sellers have access to Amazon Vine, which is another great option. But both of those efforts are a way to just try to expedite the review growth, because once you do get reviews, organic placement's going to go up, and there's actually a threshold I believe that search marketing campaigns need. They need a certain number of positive reviews to start getting better ad placement even. So reviews, again, is just going to help organic placement and then just overall ad performance and placement as well.
Yeah, kind of touching on that point, Jen, 15 reviews, it kind of seems to be that threshold, and it's even listed in Amazon's best practices for, the number of reviews that are recommended to, really see positive results of those new to market products. But also along those lines, search in the way of boosting SEO, if only 2% of sales are generating reviews, then it would make sense that the more sales you can get to a listing, the more reviews you're potentially going to get. So advertising those SKUs, pushing more volume through those ASINs should eventually lead to more reviews, which should in turn help that listing place better organically.
All right, and variations. So variations are an incredibly common thing on Amazon, but their benefits are often overlooked. Putting together like items in a single listing creates a better overall user experience for consumers. And that's a more traditional SEO term that we like to use, but it's a really great way to bring all relevant options to the consumers in an easy to use way. It improves visibility across product lines, and most importantly, many categories still aggregate or add together all reviews across variations. And as we just discussed, reviews are so incredibly important. So the variation on the right is a great example of a way that to strategically use variations for review sharing. The clear set of wine glasses was on the market for probably a year or so, generating reviews organically and through those Amazon campaigns I mentioned. Well, when this brand released the black version, we simply added those two together into this variation, and immediately it appears as if those black glasses also had a trusting number of reviews, and we saw sales take off quicker than most first to market items. So again, just another way to reiterate that the more reviews and more positive they are, this will encourage consumers to click on the ads, drive more sales, improve relevancy, and you've heard it before.
Great. And then on the search side of things, what we've seen for variations is that typically there will be one sort of anchor child ASIN, if you will, that really carries an entire variation. Sometimes the sales can be spread out across all the ASINs, but usually there's one that kind of carries the whole listing along. So from a search perspective, really taking a look at your variations, seeing what the differences are, it might make more sense to only advertise one child ASIN within your variation as a way to kind of hone in and improve your marketing efficiency, but also getting eyes on the variation as a whole. A great example of this is if you're in the apparel category and you're selling a white t-shirt, for example, you don't necessarily need ads for all sizes of that t-shirt. If the large t-shirt sells the best, build your ads around that one ASIN, and you should get visibility, sales, and increased rank around that entire variation. So just understanding your variations, how they're set up, knowing where the sales kind of fall between each of those ASINs can really both help your search and your SEO be more effective.
So yeah, it's worth noting too that right below this image on Amazon, there's two carousels that display. One is sponsored products related to this. The other one is related products. And what we found is brands and sellers with strong brand identity, they often place underneath. And so when your search engine results pages or your search SEO and your marketing pays dividends, not only with these variations right next to each other, but also right below, you'll see that they're related products. And you'll see a lot of that data coming to you through the other ASIN report underneath Amazon advertising. So that's great information.
Perfect. And shifting on to the media gallery. So I already briefly mentioned this, but the media gallery is more, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but I think it's more of a one-directional benefit of SEO helping out search marketing. But optimizing this gallery with an appealing hero image is a definite priority if you're ever going to be running advertising campaigns, because for many ad types, this hero image is what's being displayed in the ads. Sponsored ads, some of the sponsored brand ads. So if this image is less than exciting or not easy to tell what the product is, the click-through rate on these ads could actually diminish and not perform as expected.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. In most cases, SEO is going to have a bigger impact on your search performance than vice versa. Not only thinking about what your images will look like when the customer's on the page, but what that image is going to look like in the search results, what it's going to look like in your ad placements is really important. The one instance where search can benefit SEO, the media gallery, as Jen stated, is kind of where the consumer gets to experience your product. You get to sort of touch and feel it virtually, and you get to see those key features and how the shopper might be using that product. Sponsored Brands has a video option where you can actually upload up to a 45-second video, and that ad will display directly in the search results. And so one of the benefits is that you can advertise one of those videos. You can help shoppers see that benefit, and it really stands out from the rest of the listings in the search results. So it's a great way to use that asset that you may already have in the media gallery and pull it out into the search results.
Amazon compliance. This is the underpinnings of a lot of the dark world of Amazon, and the black hat techniques is what they call them. It's the non-scrupulous and perhaps approach that can even get you banned or your items removed. So we stress incredibly so we're maintaining compliance with Amazon's terms of service. There's even some questions I'm seeing in the chat that we'll get to in a minute about that review consolidation. But making sure your listings are compliant not only from an SEO but a marketing standpoint will help keep them active. For instance, using Donald Trump's name in a listing is against terms of service when marketing. Or with compliance, there are whole product categories such as sexual wellness or perhaps marijuana paraphernalia that some states it's legal in, that advertising or using particular blacklisted keywords can have your product removed, or in an egregious violation or with multiple instances can have your entire account shut down. So with that being said, we do recommend following those terms of service to the T. If you don't have somebody with compliance, our compliance team can work with you to discuss this. It is a very sticky situation for many sellers. They'll never encounter this, or for sellers in certain categories, this is an everyday struggle. So with that being said, Jen, can you tell us a little bit about how SEO can help search when it comes to Amazon compliance?
Yeah, the main way that SEO helps search is prevention. Like you mentioned, a lot of the punishments that we get as sellers is our listings get suppressed or removed. So a lot of what we're trying to do is prevent that from ever happening. So the ways that SEO does that to keep the listing live and keep the advertisements going so they don't lose relevancy is to just keep out any restricted keywords like you started to touch on. So other ones aside from Donald Trump are competitor brands, trademarked terms, certain health claims. Kind of get the idea. So keeping those out will keep the listing up and then keep our advertisements going. Another strategy that we like to do is taking into consideration character restrictions. Every category, every subcategory has different title character restrictions, potentially bullet, description, you name it. So strategy for us is we like to make sure that any keywords we're trying to target organically or through the paid advertising, we want to make sure those are within that character restriction threshold to make sure that Amazon is truly indexing them. We have seen on some tests that if those keywords are outside of the character restrictions, that Amazon is actually not indexing them or including them when trying to determine relevancy. So following character guidelines and getting your keywords in priority will ensure that you're getting the benefit for both organic and for those paid placements.
Great. And Amazon used to allow complementary brand names, such as this is compatible with Apple iPhone. Is that still allowed, or have they changed that?
So I hate to say this is a little bit of a gray area. Amazon claims that it's still permitted, but unfortunately, a lot of the suppressions that happen are by bots. Bots are scraping listing content, and if they're seeing Apple in your title, they might freak out and suppress your listing without truly seeing that other terminology, that other lingo that you mentioned. So if it's a product that was truly made to be compatible with, use that lingo, compatible with, so on and so forth. But I just like to err on the side of caution that you might still be at risk for a suppression, and that's just because of Amazon's automatic system they have.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. How does search impact SEO, and a little bit about Amazon compliance?
Yeah, as you guys kind of touched on, there are certain keywords that are for sure restricted. Avoiding those is key, but there are some workarounds on the search side of things to help your listings populate for those certain keywords or those search terms if they are super relevant to your product. So while Amazon does restrict some keywords, it doesn't restrict customers from typing into the search bar whatever they're looking for. So if a customer is searching for a restricted keyword, we can actually bid on a phrase that might be related to that restricted keyword. So as you guys have already mentioned, compatible with whatever the restricted keyword might be, or find a phrase that fits for that certain product. Using some keyword research tools, we can see, or even the autofill around that restricted keyword, we can see what customers are searching for. And bidding on those phrases will help the listings get into some of those search results. Amazon also does have the automatic campaign feature for sponsored products. So even though we're not actually bidding on keywords, we would be eligible to populate for some of those restricted searches as well.
Wonderful. Next slide, please, Katie.
Great.
Jeremy.
So I can take this one. Yeah. So hopefully at the end of all of these slides, you can kind of sense our big picture of why it is so important for SEO and search marketing teams to really work together for shared success. When doing so, you can expect to see improved placements, both organically and paid, which will drive more traffic and sales, and then in turn, improve the best sellers rank. Not to mention, you can take data from your advertising campaigns to identify new keyword opportunity, and then SEO attempts to implement, you know the deal. It's almost like you've come full circle and the process repeats. While it might not be overnight, if you get these practices in place, you'll start to see your end goal of long-term growth really come to fruition.
Awesome, thanks, Jen. So real quickly, we just wanted to mention we've talked about both our search and SEO services throughout the presentation here. We've mentioned our advertising software, Ad Manager, a couple of times. We just wanted to add in this information in case people are interested to learn a little bit more about Ad Manager and some of the service models we have available. We do have a self-service software model with some pricing here. So again, this would be us setting up the software directly to your seller account, you managing the marketing, and then having e-tailz on the technical support side in case any bugs do pop up. We also have a managed service model where you will get access to the Ad Manager platform as well, but you'll also have someone on the search marketing team who will actively manage your campaigns, so really working as an extension of your brand on the e-tailz side. And then lastly, just our SEO services. We've touched on a lot of different things we can do to help drive your listings and your organic sales. Most of our SEO services start around $300 a month, depending on the number of ASINs and the scope of work that we'd be performing. So if you've got any questions on any of these additional services or want any more information, feel free to go to e-tailz.com and reach out to us via our contact page. And we'd be happy to get you in touch with someone on our team to talk through these in a little bit more depth.
Fantastic. With that being said, we will now enter a live Q&A. It can be about topics that were covered previously, or if you have any related questions or comments that we may not have covered, please feel free to ask them. But we will start now. Previously, you mentioned that you had to have consistent prices across the web. Does Amazon require the price to be exactly the same on other websites, or can it be higher? No, Amazon does not require your pricing to be any way. How Amazon does respond, though, to your prices is they will roll the buy box. And so if you've ever been on an Amazon listing where it says available from these sellers and there is no buy box button to click, that's Amazon responding to a lower price somewhere across the web. Obviously, in the world of e-commerce and Google searching and even consumers in stores, when you're searching for products, Amazon wants to be number one. They want to be the lowest cost for the consumer. So they do not require it. However, they will it's not subvert your listings, but they will lower the prominence that your listing is displayed, as well as make it harder for the consumer to order it via Amazon and Amazon Prime. So that's a great question. There's a question here, Jeremy, what is the best ACoS you've seen on headline search ads?
Yeah, so our ACoS typically varies by brand. Majority of our brands fall within the 10 to 30% ACoS range. We do have a couple brands that do run in somewhere between the 6 or the 8% range, but typically our overall ACoS on average is about 12% on sponsored brands.
Is that on a product basis, or is the sponsored brands, are you calling that any conversion off of that?
Yeah, so that would be off of any conversion. So sponsored brands are a unique ad type in that the conversions are at the brand level, not the product level. So if you are distributing your products to any other sellers on the market, or if you are advertising 3 of your products, it will count conversions across the entire brand name on Amazon. So the scope is a little bit larger than we would typically see with sponsored products or sponsored display. But really, the idea behind that ad placement is to promote your brand as a whole. And typically, whether it's going directly to your seller account or one of your distributors, or a portfolio of distributors you might have on the channel, it should benefit you as a whole.
Great. There's a follow-up question to that. Do you know the impact an Amazon storefront has on the performance of those headline search ads?
Yeah, great question. So we for sure recommend sending traffic to the Amazon brand store instead of to the custom landing page option where it looks just like a smaller search results. I don't have a statistic off the top of my head, but we almost always see more sales at a lower ACoS when sending traffic to the brand store.
Great. Jen, here's a question for you. How do you use Amazon Prime to get more reviews?
Amazon Prime to get more reviews. So I don't know if I've personally seen a benefit from Prime since that is the 2-day shipping. Amazon Brand Registry offers both of those platforms though that I suggested for generating reviews. So Amazon Early Reviewer Program and Amazon Vine are opened up to sellers once they have brand registry. I'm not sure if that might have been what the question was. So please follow up if I did not answer that.
I'll follow up. Are you able to send email solicitation for reviews? That's been a topic of conversation, at least internally at e-tailz, for seemingly the last 3 or 4 years, because Amazon's had some changes to their terms. But can you talk about potentially soliciting reviews from customers?
Yeah, of course. And I was just transitioning into that. There's a lot of buzz around black hat, white hat ways to generate reviews. And the email follow-up questions is one that we get quite a bit. And it is totally okay to follow up with consumers through Amazon messaging, asking like, hey, what did you think of your product? Please leave an honest, unbiased review. You cannot incentivize, you can't provide a coupon code, you can't provide any links. There's a lot of rules around it, but it's definitely a method that a lot of marketers take, e-tailz included, to send follow-up emails. Like we said, the 2% rate of organic people organically leaving reviews is not great. So even if it's one of those, some call it spammy emails, it's still another way to get your product under their nose. And if they love the product, there's a good chance you'll be getting a review about it. So we personally, as a third-party service provider, and that's something that you guys are able to access as well if you partner with e-tailz.
Jen, are you comfortable talking a little bit about how that relates to product packaging? I know there is a lot of discussion across forums around including pamphlets and stuff in the product to have product marketing. I know personally on the last 3 products I've bought from Amazon, there has been a $20 discount available in the packaging. That's against terms of service too, right? To include that in the packaging?
It technically is, and the main reason is because it's incentivized. If you have any sort of lingo on there that says, if you leave us a review, like email us separately outside of Amazon and let us know, that's where you get in trouble. But I'm not going to endorse it and say, yes, it's fine, because Amazon doesn't catch it, because we have heard stories. If you're shipping items through Amazon fulfillment and they happen to have to investigate one of your units for damage or whatever, and they discover a pamphlet or something like that, it could get your listing in a lot of trouble. And so it's a lot of sellers do it, a lot of brands do it. Is the risk worth it? Is the question that you have to ask. And some of the negative side effects that we've seen happen is people lose a lot of their reviews that they've spent years aggregating. And that's because Amazon's like, oh, we identified that they potentially use black hat methods. We don't know which reviews were generated that way, so we're going to remove all of them. So e-tailz we personally played on the safer side because we don't see the risk being worth it.
Definitely. And that's one of the key things, again, from that compliance standpoint. The terms of service of the account, for some people, they can roll the dice. We totally recommend not rolling the dice. Amazon compliance, it's a significant way to generate sales and reach consumers. You don't want to be banned from that platform. Jen, I'm not sure, I know Ben in our catalog management team knows the answer to this, but there's 2 questions here. One of them, we had a product that review sharing for variation was removed by Amazon. Now one variation has 5 reviews and variation 2 has 3 reviews instead of 8 collective reviews. Can we fix this?
That is a great question and tricky question. So I want to say it was close to a year ago, Amazon announced that they were no longer going to aggregate or sum up reviews. And so immediately we went into a panic. I'm sure a lot of sellers went into a panic, but as with a lot of Amazon rules, that it wasn't applied right away. And we've seen it on some listings where the reviews are split up, and efforts that we've done have been successful in getting those reviews to re-aggregate together. So that is a more technical process and something that I can please follow up outside of this. But it entails a flat file upload, doing full updates, and just checking a few boxes and notes in there. So I can definitely send more details out to whoever needed that.
Yeah, it is worth noting, you mentioned the hero product, which seems on some listings to take control of the entire listing. There also is a parent listing. So there's two actual variation listings on the back end. One is that there is a just ASIN that isn't actually attached to a product that you can buy. That's where you'll see the reviews have been consolidated. However, if there is a hero, in many cases, that product will have direct. There's also a way where if you scroll down to the review section, you can still see the breakout by variation if you're a consumer. And so it's worth noting that it is quite, there's many different ways and maybe confusing because Amazon seemingly applies all of them. So let's see. That question was also answered by Rap. Thank you, Jen. This question, how does SEO affect FBA versus an MFN inventory placement? Is there a difference in the search engine results page, Jen, between MFN and FBA?
Yes, there definitely is. Amazon gives more weight to FBA. We don't know why. When they offer like seller prime, like seller fulfilled prime, they say that it's just as good, but we have noticed that FBA gets prime placement on SERP, and it seems like there's nothing that we can do to improve that. So if you have two listings, they look identical, but one's FBA and one's MFN, the FBA is always going to win out in placement. I think that's just factored into Amazon's algorithm.
Great. There's one weird anomaly there, and that's on oversized items. It seems that's a mix of what gets preferential treatment. If you've ever bought a refrigerator on Amazon, which is an interesting experience, I've never done it, but I've seen people who do it. If you go search for those large appliances or kayaks or something, you'll often see that they're mixed, and I believe that that's due to conversion rates, and they just see those performing better. Obviously, the FBA fee ships twice. That's quite a bit of a price difference. Great. Thank you, Jen. How can we determine if a competitor is using our brand name in SEO? Jen?
That is a tough one. The easiest way that I would highly recommend if you don't have it is get involved with Amazon Brand Registry. They have an infringement tool where you can type in your brand, and it's going to go and scrape all listings to see if they can find it in a listing content. And then it offers a tool to go individually report each listing or seller that might be utilizing your brand in their listing content. I personally don't know if there's a way to identify if they are bidding on it though. Jeremy, do you know if there's a way to identify that?
The only real way to find out if a brand is bidding on it is to unfortunately just search for your brand name on the platform and see if any sponsored ads populate for your brand that aren't yours. Unfortunately, Amazon doesn't really police bidding on brand names, and it's not something that is it's a very much a gray area. It's not black and white on what the policies are. So that's really the only way to monitor it there. We can't really see which products are being advertised on that brand name or which sellers are using that in their search results.
Great. And Jen, there was also, I remember back in the day, there was a widely reported, you could search the ASIN with a plus sign in the keyword. Is that still a thing? Did Amazon remove that ability? Are you even aware of it?
I feel like the last time I tested that, it didn't work actually. So I think Amazon might have changed something in their search feature. But what it used to be is, yeah, you type in an ASIN, you type ampersand, and then you type in whatever keyword string you're looking for. So if it was the brand, you'd type that and then click enter. And I don't think it works anymore, but that's what our old tactic used to be.
Yeah, a quick YouTube search earlier showed 2016 was the last time a video was posted with that. So just wanted to see what you thought. Do either of you have a best site to search for keywords for free? How would you use a keyword research tool? Are there free ones? Jeremy, I'll start with you.
We typically use Merchant Words and Jungle Scout are the two tools that we use. Both are paid services. Um, you know, a little bit more research might be able to yield something that does offer free or maybe a free trial. Typically, they do have a 30-day free trial or a 10-day free trial, something along those lines. So that might be a good way to go to start. But those are the two main ones that we usually leverage.
Have you ever used Google Trends for keyword search?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do use Google Trends every now and then. Um, you know, Google and Amazon are definitely two different platforms, and there are some utility between the two. Amazon is a much more product-specific platform. The searches generally look way different than what you would search on Google. Usually, it's more question-based or research into a certain subject through Google. Amazon is product-specific, so yeah, there are some crossovers and there's some utility there, but it's not a perfect solution by any means.
Perfect. There's another question about ways to solicit reviews. We may have answered that ad nauseum. Jen, is there anything else that's come to your mind in the last 5 minutes or so that you'd like to add about how sellers or brands can get more reviews on a product?
I feel like we've already explained all the options that we utilize. Early reviewer program, Amazon Vine, taking advantage of follow-up email programs. Those are really good as well. Things to avoid, and we've already kind of touched on some of those, but like outsourcing review generation, don't pay someone to go leave reviews. Another one that we haven't really mentioned that's not kosher and could get you in trouble is having family members or friends or people within your business leaving reviews on your own products or competitors. That's another black hat tactic that can really get you in a lot of trouble. So no other creative ideas I can think of right now, but just other ways to be more careful.
Yeah, and it's been widely reported. Amazon is working very hard to address these IPR and then even in this case the solicited fake reviews. There's widely reported the random shipments that show up to create that verified purchase, people getting trinkets or something from China. Yes, that widely reported. Amazon's aware of it. They are cracking down on it. So terms of service is going to be your friend here so that you don't jeopardize your business. Jeremy, can video be implemented into sponsored brand ads? And if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on it a little bit when talking about how we can use the media gallery in search, but essentially when you're creating a sponsored brand ad, there's just a separate option for a video ad as opposed to the banner ad. It is technically still in beta, I believe. A majority of the sellers we work with do have access to it. So if you're not seeing it, it may just not be fully rolled out yet. But essentially, you'll just select that option. They list all the specs and requirements for the video, what file it needs to be in, all that good information. And then you can just upload it there. You tie a certain ASIN to that video, enter in the keywords you want to bid on, and you can launch it that way. Some best practices we do note for those videos, because a lot of shoppers will watch content with the sound off, putting text overlay and really calling out those key features about your product, demonstrating how the user will or the shopper will use the product will really help your click-through rate and your conversion rate on those video ads.
Ooh, that's a gem that just snuck out there at the end. I like it. There's a follow-up question about that pricing question that we had, and it was an ask of, is the pricing per marketplace, i.e. USA, Canada, Mexico? Yes, to our knowledge, the pricing, there is something called North American Regional Fulfillment, but Amazon is targeting the consumers who can purchase those products, and so they're monitoring across sites. So in Amazon Europe, they may be comparing against major European shopping sites. Yes, this email.
Hey, Darby.
Yeah.
That question might have been asking about our pricing for Ad Manager.
Oh, that's a good question.
I could be wrong.
At this point, we are working on international. There was a question about Vendor Central as well. International and Vendor Central are both things that are currently on our roadmap. We're working on those, hopefully Q3 in the next 2 or 3 months. There will be more communication coming out around if we go to international. For SEO and managed service, we do currently offer those internationally, and I believe that that pricing is per marketplace. Yes, so hopefully that answers the question. Amazon Ad Manager as a software that you can use yourself is not quite available for international or vendor central, but for the managed service as well as the SEO that is per marketplace. Yes, thanks, Jen. That's a good clarification. Yes, this will be sent out via email. You can get access to the webinar as soon as it's over. Here's a specific question, Jen. I think this one's for you. We have a product that is coming out with a version 2.0. We don't want to lose the traction of the listing. Can we add the 2.0 version as a variation to the listing and then make product 1.0 no longer available as we're discontinuing it? Is that allowed? It's a good question. Jen.
That is a great question. It's actually a very common question. So unfortunately, it technically is not a compliant variation. We keep talking about terms of services and Amazon cracking down. Having version 1.0, version 2.0 is not a current theme that Amazon offers. And so we personally it's that risk versus reward. It's a great strategy. We used to do it before Amazon cracked down on variations. So it's up to you. I don't want to say yay or nay on this. Again, it's just that risk versus reward. It's a great strategy. It keeps the reviews on that listing and it'll help kick off that product to have a good start, but it is not technically compliant.
Yikes. There you go. There you go.
And just jumping in on that, one thing on the search side of things that you can do to help kind of alleviate those pains from switching to version 1 to version 2 is if you have advertising running, you can simply just replace that ASIN out in the campaigns. And if it's a hard stop on the inventory, if version 1 runs out and version 2 picks up, it should pick up right with your advertising. Will have no hang up. It'll just keep going. You can also use sponsored display or even sponsored ads and use product targeting. And so if there is an overlap between those two ASINs, you can actually target your ASIN 1 using the ASIN 2. And so it will show up on that listing so shoppers can see that there is a version 2 coming out as a way to try and ramp up sales to the new SKU even quicker.
Wonderful. Jeremy, how do you recommend reporting on Halo sales for ads? We are not able to get a clear look at our ROAS since we're part of a bigger brand who has a much more extensive catalog than ours. It's a great question.
Yeah, that's always a tough one to kind of look at. A metric that can be used that we like to look at in some of these situations would be your total ACoS or even your total ROAS. So instead of looking at your marketing spend over your marketing sales, you could look at your marketing spend over your channel sales or over the portfolio of SKUs that you're advertising for the whole channel. And that way you get a sense of what the channel's actually doing in response to your marketing dollars. So if you're seeing your total channel ACoS go down, then likely you're seeing a larger growth in your organic sales than you are in your advertising sales. So you can, look at that percentage difference however you want, but if your total ACoS is going down or if your total ROAS is going up, then you're likely seeing that halo effect that you're talking about. The measurement, you can kind of compare those however you want, but that's how I would recommend looking at that metric.
It's a great point. One of the unknowns there is going to be that inbound marketing that you may be doing on social channels or through traditional media. So that's one thing worth noting. Good. I read through the Amazon seller forums and commenters consistently say that email follow-ups for reviews are a bad idea since consumers hate them and it makes the seller look bad. Do you really think it's worth doing follow-ups for the extra reviews considering it looks spammy? They go straight to my spam folder, I will say. Jen, any follow-up there?
It is an old tactic, old marketing, I will admit that, but we still think it's worth a shot. I don't want to say that's not possible to build brand loyalty on Amazon, but sometimes that's just not realistic on this kind of marketplace. So I think it's still worth it. Again, 2% is very small. We'll take anything we can get. So we personally like to move forward with it on brands that are really focused on revenue growth. We don't blast our entire catalog. We just target specific products.
Perfect. And we are running up on time. I think we will be able to answer some questions here, but wanted to thank everyone who is having to hop off right at 11 for their time here. You will get that email. This has been a great Q&A session. We're going to continue it for another couple minutes, but just wanted to thank everyone. Feel free to reach out directly with any questions to the presenters here, and we will keep going on the Q&A. If product inserts are against terms of service, is it what? Oh my gosh, I got tongue-tied. In product inserts, is it against the Amazon terms of service to put a URL on the inserts? How about printing the URL on the product itself? It's a great question. Jen, are you comfortable enough answering this question?
Yeah, URL is a big one that comes up a lot. So any URL you are not supposed to have on an insert, in an email, any kind of link is a big no-no with Amazon, because how they're perceiving it is they're trying to direct future traffic and future business away from Amazon and to your personal URL. So on inserts, I would say personally no. If it's on the product itself, I think you're fine. That's a manufacturing thing and something that we can control, but we're not going to tell Amazon we can control that. So
it is worth noting, if your product has a manual, there's some, I think, grace there. It is against Amazon's terms of service. However, if there are instructions with your product, a lot of people have a single package for any of their channels. So you won't necessarily have to change your packaging to be compliant, but if you are creating packaging, you definitely want to be compliant. Here we go. Question. Thoughts on automatic targeting versus manual targeting? Which should be used, or if both, what proportion? This is a personal favorite question of ours, Jeremy. Go for it.
Yeah, for sure use both. The automatic targeting is great because we're leveraging Amazon's insights and their data to get into relevant search terms for your products. And then we can use search term reports or ad manager software to harvest those search terms and add them into the manual campaigns. The manual campaigns should where you see the growth and a majority of your sales for your ads if you do have them set up correctly. Another best practice is to negate out the keywords you have in the manual campaign in the auto so that campaign is constantly generating new search terms for you. So again, for sure use both. The percentage is going to balance if you are launching campaigns for the first times or advertising SKUs for the first time. Put more of your budget towards the auto, let it run and find those searches and those keywords that work best. And then as you build out that manual campaign more and more, start shifting more and more of your budget to that campaign and those ad groups.
I love that. Yeah, and I will say this is one of the features that we've done a ton of thinking on when it comes to Ad Manager, in the sense that one of our goals is that we would be able to implement a search marketing strategy and have it automatically unfurl, get smarter, and manage itself with your goals in mind. So that automatic to manual mapping is so important. And what you see actually is that the automatic campaign, if managed properly with that manual campaign, begins to reduce in spend. And then you can slowly increase your bids on that automatic campaign, and it'll generate new keywords. One of the really interesting things there too is that as competitors find new keywords or market against new demographics or keywords or search terms or whatever, you're going to see that auto campaign actually will sometimes kick up new terms and then be able to transfer them into the manual. So it's one of those really, really great things about auto ads is that it essentially lets your campaigns get smarter if you're using the data. The big thing there is if you're using the data. You can manually do this by downloading the search term report that Jeremy said, or if you're using a system to manage it, you can just input your outcomes. There she goes. So love that question. It's one of my favorites personally. Have y'all experimented with video links in the follow-up email that are tied to AWS to allow it to go through? I don't think we have. Jen, are you familiar with that?
We have not tried that specific type of link, but I can share that when we try including any kind of link, including Amazon detail pages, Amazon's messaging actually extracts all links. And so if you link a graphic, it's no longer clickable, or if you have just a normal hyperlink, Amazon actually removes that and puts in a quote saying, Amazon removed this link for your safety or something like that. So any link, Amazon or not, it won't make it through the system.
Dun, 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 and that even adds to the spamminess, I think, as if it says Amazon has removed this link. It looks kind of weird. Here's a question. Can we have the same items listed under FBA and MFN? White wine glasses on FBA, black wine glasses on MFN. Yes, you can. You can actually even have a dropship or a direct-to-consumer MFN listing behind an FBA listing. So you can have the white wine glasses on FBA and MFN as their two different supports. So you can totally do that. And it's actually recommended, I think right now, this is going off topic of this webinar, but it's worth noting with the disruptions caused by coronavirus to supply chains, a lot of our listings, we see sales spike very quickly and FBA will sell out, and then our MFN dropship or direct to consumer, whichever it is, ends up capturing some sales. And so we can ship direct from manufacturer or direct from our own warehouse or distribution network. So that's a recommendation we actually have is that there's quite a bit of disruption happening. So you probably want to do both. If you have questions or follow-ups and you would like more information on that or some of our methods of handling that, would be great. What is a great book on how to sell on Amazon? Ooh, I think we should write a book on that as a company, but Jen or Jeremy, do you have, and I think maybe blogs to follow or thought leaderships, is it probably a better way because Amazon's changing so quickly, but do you have any blog recommendations or book recommendations? Jeremy, you first.
Yeah, good question. Books, no, again, because I think the landscape changes so fast that by the time someone wrote and published a book, it potentially could be outdated. Again, we have a great blog. You know, I'm trying to think. SEMrush has some good info on there as well. You know, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one that I kind of anchor to, but as I'm searching for topics, you know, I kind of look to see, you know, just what's the most relevant to my search and go from there.
Great.
A couple other big ones that I'll chime in there. Selix, Stellar Labs, or a couple of Jungle Scout is a tool that we use, and they pump out some good blogging content every now and then as well.
Cool. And then Marketplace Pulse is my favorite thought leader when it comes to this space. They write a really great informational post about even how Amazon's changing their search pages. So that's more industry specific. Can you list these as an answer? Sure, we will reply to you with some answers here in a minute. Does sponsored display ads provide an option to do remarketing outside of Amazon to drive traffic back to Amazon product detail page or a brand store?
Yeah, great question. So they do have an off of Amazon option. It does not drive to the brand store, but it will drive back to the ASINs that you have selected in that campaign. I briefly did mention there are some options on what you can target. So you can target shoppers that are in market. You can target shoppers that have viewed your detail pages and not converted, and you can target repeat purchasers. Again, these ads leverage Amazon's first-party data. We don't get the data insights ourselves, but the ad type, it's almost like an automatic campaign that is sending these ads out to Amazon's first-party customers using the data they have.
Glorious. And that is the, oh, there's one more. Can you share a list of Amazon affiliates or programs? Jen, is that something you would cover?
I honestly don't do much with affiliates. So I'm not sure if that's something I can answer on the air, but I know our sister team could probably give us some good answers. We could follow up with that offline.
Katie, I don't know if you're willing to jump in from the wings. I know you're helping us with that. Do you have any?
Hi guys, so my name's Katie. I'm our inbound marketing manager, and we do a lot with Amazon affiliates and that. So the Amazon affiliate program, I hope that's what you're referring to, but that's something that really it's meant for influencers. So influencers can go and enroll in the program. They can access really every product that's sold on Amazon and get an attributable link to promote it on their social channels or wherever, and they can earn a commission. And so from a brand perspective, there's not a ton you can do with the affiliate program, but what I would encourage you to do is start reaching out to influencers, work with an agency to do that. And we specialize in that, in working with influencers to direct traffic to Amazon, and the Amazon affiliate program is part of that. So hopefully that answers your question. Follow up if you have any more questions regarding that.
Wonderful. And Katie has been, again, the technical expert running this webinar for us. So I think I am reviewing all of the questions. I think we have answered them all. That was a good 30 minutes or so of Q&A. That is my favorite type of webinar, is to help people with their questions that they have. It's more specific and more informative. So again, you'll be getting an email here, I think, in the next 10 minutes or so about, or with this webinar and some of the resources. With that being said, thank you so much. We hope you're safe. We hope your businesses are booming during this period. We know that we've been seeing the lift from COVID, and so we're excited because e-commerce has accelerated this year to about 10 years into the future of growth. And so it's an exciting time to be in e-commerce across marketplaces and on Amazon. So we wish you the best. We hope you have a great rest of your summer and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for attending our webinar.